Bulavinaka, and welcome to Straight Talk with Vijay Narayan, where we speak to the head of Vaccination Task Force, Dr. Rachel Devi, today. Dr. Rachel, of course, good news is more doses continue to arrive from our development partners. And the good news for you is, since we spoke last week, that more doses have been confirmed that they will be arriving in the next few days. But let's first of all touch on how many people you have managed to vaccinate so far.
Thank you, Vijay. Yes, it's good to be back here and talking about vaccinations for Fiji. And you're right. More doses coming in this week. I know Australia's committed 70,000 doses this week, and I think today is Thursday, right? So a batch of vaccines come in today, and then in the weekend. So yes, in terms of numbers, when we look at numbers, what have we done so far? And I must say, a lot of people are now due. I think your team itself went for their second jab yesterday, and a lot of people who had gotten the vaccinations, if people remember, was at the Vodafone Arena and a few others in all over the country during that period, the first half of April. So those group of people, which is around 59,000 individuals are now due for their second jab this week and next week. So cumulatively, but looking at just first jabs that we've administered to date as of yesterday evening, has been 250,160 individuals. This is first jab, the first dose of AstraZeneca, and we've gone up significantly because of the 59,000 that are now due of the second jab. So uh, gradually picking up, but we have 8,636 individuals fully vaccinated now. And I know this number will increase as we progress in the coming days. So that's a pretty good number, especially with the first jab and as we wait for the second jabs to come by.
Dr. Rachel, now based on your statistics, it's interesting that you will have quite a number of people fully vaccinated in the next week or so. Can you tell us how many people are being vaccinated on a daily or weekly basis, on average, of course, and how are we faring compared to other countries?
Now, that's a good question. It's an important one. And alongside that, there's a few factors as well. And one of them has been a dose availability in country. So, on an average, since we began, we could see in a day right across the country, we could vaccinate more than 10,000, even close to more than 20,000, even in a day right across Fiji. But like I mentioned, it's dose dependent. But we have seen a minimum of about 5 to 6,000 to close to 25,000 a day. And on an average, the minimum we've probably gone to in terms of a week, we've, I think, vaccinated a few thousand to close to 70,000 a week. And very much dose dependent. When we know we've got the doses, we distribute them right across. More specifically, we did recently with the VT level. So when we focused around that, we distributed vaccines, and the maximum we went was the 70,000 in a week that we did. And I must say, we still have, if we look at a week's capacity, we could do a lot more if we had enough doses to distribute to the one team in Vanuatu and the Eastern Division. Unfortunately, when we were doing all these mass vaccinations and sending out vaccines to our containment zones here in VT level, we couldn't send anything to Vanuatu and the Eastern Division, the Maritime Islands, because for obvious reasons. So even that 70,000 is on the not a maxed out capacity that Fiji has for a week. And when we compare it to, I think, other places, when we look at it alone, we've vaccinated close to 42, 43, I think 43% as of yesterday of our target population with first dose, and about 1.4% with the second dose. When we look at those numbers in itself, I think Fiji as a developing country is doing pretty well. And we know that we're really picking up pace, and and this is something that's very much needed. So from a developing country perspective, we could be probably quite high in terms of numbers, one of the few first countries that has reached that first dose target from a developing country perspective. And I'm still yet to have a proper look at the vaccination trackers, but I know some countries like Canada, UK, and a few others were sitting at around 62, 64% first dose as well. And we know their capacity is also huge. So I think fair enough, we're doing pretty well in Fiji, and now it's about receptiveness to to come forward and get the jab, and also not just the first one but the second one as well.
Now, definitely, you've done your planning based on more doses coming in. If you do have availability of vaccines, what is your max capacity?
Good question. Max capacity could go, well, 70,000 was just in VT level alone. So we could go as far as 80, 90,000 probably a week. But we do know, the other thing we do know is that we're coming to a place where we're vaccinating a good proportion of our target population. We know we haven't passed the 50% mark, but now it's obviously we know Fiji with so many islands, there's the geographical challenge as well. So now going out to the communities in the interiors, and those things take up time. And obviously, an important thing we want to do now is, with the misinformation or people being confused about vaccines. I mean, we really want to have that education session as well before the vaccination session, because we want to get that information out there and we want to get it right. And not just that we're forcing anybody, it's obviously for all of our protection, but we are going out now to the more outskirts of Fiji and getting these vaccines to them. So, but on an average, when you look at it, we definitely could do a lot better, a lot more than 70,000 if the whole of Fiji was to be taken into consideration.
What are some of the challenges that you have been facing or continue to face? One definitely being exposed to the virus with people coming to the vaccination centers. You've got your officials out there on a daily basis. What are some of the challenges, that one included?
That's true. So I mean, we know we've got three-digit number of cases in Fiji almost for the past few days. And this in itself is a challenge for people on the ground. And this is one of the things that's been paramount for the ministry, is that, we don't compromise our staff with anything. So we make sure that I mean, people may have noticed this as well, that when they do turn up to a vaccination site, they would have PPEs with them, basically personal protective equipments, the gears, the gowns, the masks, the face shields, and also we're trying to make sure we take all precaution for our staff. And with these PPEs, we know these are protective measures that will protect our staff and keep the vaccination drive going. Because while the containment aspect is going, the vaccination drive needs to continue as well. And you rightfully said that apart from us doing that measure, one of the few other challenges we've faced is in the initial days when we had protective gear, but not the full we would love to have. We didn't use them. And that did show a bit of our nurses and doctors and other allied staff who were working with us, who were becoming primary contacts of cases. So we had to stand down teams. We know Nandi stood down for a bit, and then Suva so as well, and a few other sites. But we've to overcome that challenge, I must say, we've had to re-strategize every now and again so that we are able to deliver as much as possible within the various subdivisions in Fiji. So apart from that, I think the challenge I think is the misinformation that's been going around, and that's unfortunate. But if as a Fijian, I think we really need to take care of our Fiji right now and avoid that misinformation. And if people want to talk about misinformation, we're there to talk about it. And not just we talking about it, but I know people love to read the information on Facebook. The other side, go to the more credible sites for misinformation to mitigate it. So go to like WHO sites, Ministry of Health sites. So that's something that's helpful. But one of the important challenges with videos being shared and this misinformation going out. So I think those were the few challenges. But honestly, on the upside, there's been so much support. There's been so much support by our government departments, by our defense forces, and even just the public. It's been everyone's been so supportive and coming forth, and it's good to hear reports, and if there's any downfalls, obviously we can improve on it. There's a lot happening on the field, and these nurses, these doctors, every individual that's in the front line right now, they've been going on at it for weeks, almost more than 2 months now, and they've been going on at it for months, and even before the virus came in. We know we started the vaccination back in March, so people have been at it for quite a bit. Just do bear with us. I mean, we apologize for any mishaps anyway, but we are trying to improve as much as possible as we progress. That's important for us. Our service delivery is essential, and I appreciate the feedbacks, both positives and the negatives, and that gives us an opportunity to strengthen and make things better.
Just to say that we were at Suva Sangam School, and very effective and professional service by your team there, definitely from when they started with the first doses and over the months, they really have got it down pat, and great leadership shown there in ensuring that the officials on the ground and are really going out to the elderly, the vulnerable, and assisting people to get things done. So that's the feedback from the ground, which we can give you, and a very quick process for those who are wondering that if you may be stuck there for many, many hours. We haven't seen that happening at any of the centers. Now, in relation to misinformation, of course, people can get stuck with misinformation, and the biggest issue is confusion. People sitting on the fence whether they should get vaccinated or not. For some of the people, they're just saying, why should I? We definitely have seen in other countries that have experienced the pandemic, where the cases, if they continue to rise, and if we do not have herd immunity or enough people vaccinated, we could run into big issues, including at hospitals, health facilities, and vaccination centers. You want to shed some light on that, for especially those who are still confused or sitting on the fence whether they should get vaccinated or not?
Thank you. Yes, it's an important question, I believe, and I must say the examples are seen right across the world in terms of herd immunity and how we can beef up our vaccination numbers and how that contributes to reduction in number of hospitalization and deaths as well. Now, for those who are sitting on the fence and thinking, should I get vaccinated? Should I not? And a lot of people do message me as well, and I was like, I'm confused. What do you think? And they asked me some specific questions. I said, look, there's no contraindication for certain things that you've been talking about. I think you should go get jabbed. Even more the reason you should, because you've got so and so comorbid issues with you, because you need that important layer of protection. Now, for those who are sitting as well, I mean, I'm on that fence and thinking, should I not? Ask yourself this question: have I gotten all the right information I need in relations to these vaccines? And have I gotten it from credible people, credible sources? And we know these credible sources. We've been we've been updating this information on our social media pages, on our web pages, and WHO, UNICEF pages are there. And there's a lot of good amount of information on these credible sources. So get that right information and then make the right decision. Because at the end of the day, like, I don't want anyone to see that we're pushing anybody to get the jab. We are encouraging individuals to get the jab, and this is only for the reason that we want you protected. And like you said, I mean, with the herd immunity concept, we do need a certain percentage, above 70% to have them at least vaccinated with 2 doses. But we know as a country we're going higher than that, because we know the better the protection, the better our chances of reducing the hospitalization and death as well. Now, when you look at it, if with UK and Scotland and so many other countries out there, with the increasing number of percentage in their vaccine coverage, at least for first dose and with second dose as well, with increasing that, we've seen significant amount of reductions. I mean, India in itself is a typical example. When their vaccination coverage was quite low, their deaths had started crumbling up, and we saw, unfortunately, those scenes, which I don't think so anybody would want to see, and of those cremations and all that, and now they've picked up on their vaccination, and they picked up, and that's seen a significant reduction. So I mean, I think we're seeing what's happening around the world. We should learn from it, and I think we should support each other as Fijians and get rightfully informed to make that right decision. Don't listen to Facebook or any single soul. I mean, I know these days a lot of people would just love to become technical advisors to Fiji, without any information in terms of factual information. So that's just an important message I would get out.
Dr. Rachel, in relation to doses coming in, we know they continue to come in. Australia has so far, with the 70,000 doses coming in, the numbers will go as high as 250,000 and continue to increase. Of course, 1 million doses expected in total. New Zealand also expected to send through 500,000 doses. Now, how many doses do you have in the stockpile and moving to ensure that you have momentum?
Yes, and a good question and an important one, and that's something that had stopped me from sending vaccines out of VT level. So because we've been forecasting, and we've been almost forced ourselves to crunch numbers every day, every week, to know what's our utilization numbers, rates, and what are we using the past few weeks and all that. And that helps us plan for the next week so that our vaccination drives continue. So basically, as we speak, like we know that Australia gave in 50,000 last week, and they have 70,000 coming in this week, which is a real huge boost. And we know we do anticipate some to come next week as well. So with that, those vaccines coming in, like with the 50,000 coming in, we know we've already started distribution of that one across the country. We've sitting at maybe around I think 20-30,000 doses that are there waiting to be dispatched, distributed to the teams on the ground to utilize. Because on an average in last week alone, I mean, we've seen about 35,000 doses administered in that 1 week. We had to slow down a bit because we didn't have enough vaccines doses in the country. So we slowed down a bit and gave it to areas which were having the virus in itself, so we could get more people within that area vaccinated. But now with the doses that had come in from Australia, and this week as well, we're able to, and also I must say we got some COVAX doses. It was just 2,400 doses, but still there was something. And there's some more from COVAX coming in the coming week. So with that, having said that, we are able to roll out vaccination, at least a small portion of it, starting with the North next week. So at least we'll start something and get the coverage numbers up slowly as well from there, from in Vanuatu itself.
Of course, you have projected timelines in relation to when you want to reach the target of getting over 70% of the population vaccinated. It will be based on the availability of doses as well. What are some of the projected timelines that you have worked on that the country, if they get behind the vaccination program, the earliest that you can reach?
Yes, another good question there. When do we expect to achieve it, with especially with doses coming in? So we could expect to pass that 70% mark by July, or even like mid-July or earlier, depending if everybody gets on board with this and we keep moving. And I know some of our teams are being beefed up. They're coming back from isolation and all. And with doses coming in constantly from Australia and very soon from New Zealand, we do anticipate to at least reach those targets in the coming weeks at least. Could be 5 to 6 weeks, could be 8 weeks, yeah, dependent on obviously, like we mentioned earlier, doses. But looking at that, I'm looking at around July, at least to pass that 70%.
For the first doses and for the second doses?
For the second dose, we can say 2 months later, at least 2 months later from there. So July, August, September, by September, October, we can expect 70-80% or more fully vaccinated in Fiji.
A question in relation to uh, people taking the first dose. They were given certain dates. On the 10th
Mm.
week, they had to come for the second dose, or some on the 11th week. And the question is being asked with the Delta variant coming in, whether the Ministry of Health has made assessments and decided that the window can be brought forward a bit and the effectiveness will still be there. Can you talk about that?
Yes, a very good point, and I think some of the news channels did pick this up as well in Fiji, where I think it was the recent studies published by UK, and within they had done this with the Delta variant, and we had seen the effectiveness of the vaccine go up of AstraZeneca to almost 92%. And this was with the Delta variant. And one of the other things that important things that showed up in this study was that we could bring this 12th week, which initially showed us good amount of immunity, down to 8 weeks. We've had that discussion within the ministry, and we are definitely moving in that direction. That's why you may have seen that we did release yesterday, when we released the vaccination sites for dose 1 and dose 2. We did state the dates. If you had been vaccinated dose 1 during, I think it was the 5th of April to 16th of April, then you could go get your second jab. You had already passed your 8th week and you're on your 10th or 11th week. Probably around 10th week. So you could have gone and got on your second jab. So we're encouraging individuals who got their vaccinations during that period to come forth and get the second jab. This was the AstraZeneca Covishield from India, and that is what we have already distributed that right across the country, and we'll be, like we mentioned, we'll be announcing sites where individuals can go and get their jabs, and we'll be announcing a lot more sites probably in the coming week as well, especially for those sites who haven't opened up and are doing more community based, because we do know a lot of our vaccination sites are happening in the communities as well, where general population may not be able to enter into. So we are going to open up a site that is conducive to the rest of the population, so they could come in and get the jab. I must say, for the second jab, the side effect is almost minimal to nil. I had it literally, I mean, you could probably vouch for it if you had any side effect, your team or not. My mom and dad had it. They no side effects, nothing. They didn't have, especially with the second jab, because their immune system was boosted up, and they, with the second jab, it's just boosting it within the immune system that's already reacted in the first one. And I must say the process is a lot faster. No more registration. You've registered once. That's it. So now you just go in for the jab and you're out again. So that process in itself is also faster.
Now, in relation to people wanting to get their second doses, you must have seen that people are asking, I'm almost due in the next few days. Should I go to the same place where I got my first jab and I don't see that site in operation anymore? What's your message to them?
This is one thing I think maybe we have spoken about it, but maybe not so much. And one of the reasons why we set up the registration system. Now, if you got your vaccination, your first jab in Nandi, but because of all these lockdowns and everything, you have come somewhere else, for example, to Suva, you can get your second jab here. You don't need to go back to Nandi. You don't need to go back to any other place. Wherever you are, you can get your vaccination done. And that's absolutely fine, because one thing is we do have you in the system, and once you go in, we'll just insert you as like, okay, second jab done, and when we're good to go. So you don't need to go back to the same site. The same site may not exist even for people coming in the near days. Second jab may be just at health facilities. You just go in for your jab and you're out again. So I encourage individuals, don't be concerned if you do get people turning you away because of that. Just let us know, let the ministry know. We'll sort that out. But the message has gone out to our team on the ground. Anybody turns up for their second jab, just and they are due. Being mindful that they are due after 8 weeks. Yes, we will jab. We will provide the vaccine to individuals.
There you go, clarification from Dr. Rachel that even if you are being turned away and you have passed your 8 weeks after your first dose, you can contact the Ministry of Health, as the vaccination center should allow you in to get your second dose. Now, in relation to videos that continue to be circulated, uh, the magnet video is then now almost being made fun of. Everybody is now laughing at it. So it's just totally debunked. And I think it's just fallen off the wayside. So it seems like some people continue to try in making sure that this disinformation, the deliberate way of trying to get out fake news, that the disinformation continues. This is deliberately, even staging videos. Now, we have got reports of videos being staged of people allegedly having very adverse reactions to vaccines, but no proof of it provided, no specific details given. And then some people are falling for that and are asking, should I go and get vaccinated because this has happened to so and so? Your comments on that?
I think it honestly goes back to because, like you said, sometimes it's staged. I mean, people are making. You're right in saying also that a lot of people are now making fun of that one. I did see, I think, a photo of someone who got vaccinated and said, "Okay, I'm stuck to the tin and I'm pulling the tin away with me, and I can't do anything." I saw that photo on Facebook. I mean, yes, people making fun of it, but that's where we say constantly, get the right information from the right place and believe the right thing. And trust me when I say this, that every adverse event that we are aware of, we get told of, we investigate them thoroughly. And I think there was a case recently of a lady, and we've investigated everything. We've done all neurological investigations, examinations. We've done blood tests. Everything's been done, and everything's absolutely normal. And but still, like I said, we investigate them because that's important for us. We investigate it regardless of people staging it or doing whatever it is that they do. But I encourage honestly these Fijians not to try and create this disinformation you're talking about, because that is, there are some people who are, do buy into these things, and it does discourage them. So I mean, at the end of the day, if we, I think we all Fijians need to be in this together. Get the right information, get it out there, and make the right decision.
There's also some people concerned about what is in the dose that they're taking. Some are saying, uh, we talked about the fake news about the microchip, or what is the chemical mix that if I take it, then I get beholden to someone, or things like that, which continues to be circulated. What is in the dose?
Those vaccines, okay, basically the content of these vaccines are mainly protein products, and um, there's a list of these things that obviously that's online. If I have to share, they're very scientific names of it as well. But anybody can just search for those specific. For example, if it's AstraZeneca, you can search for it and get that information. But it is something that we use in other vaccines. It's a poor, like for example, I think we talked about it previously, that with there is no live virus in it. There's the AstraZeneca has this adenovirus, which obviously is not harmful, but it develops that antibody production in the body. So these contents, I mean, if you want, I can probably pass them over to you, and we could probably, and I guess ministry can obviously put it out there. but there is no such content like magnets or anything that will. People are even talking about DNA changing. Now, there is no such thing as it changes your DNA. That vaccines can't do that. Especially, I know some people have talked about, oh, it's an mRNA vaccine, the Pfizer and the Moderna vaccines. It's going to change my DNA, or even this AstraZeneca. No, it can't. It can't change your DNA in any way. It's not there to mutate you and your DNA in any way. But these vaccines are there to create that reaction of development of antibodies. That's what these vaccines, the content of these vaccines do. So that's important to note.
Dr. Rachel, my final question is in relation to children. We touched on that, and of course, a lot of studies are underway. I saw the Mayor of London gave an interview on Sky News saying that for those under 18, they were looking at most likely getting Pfizer in the UK, while those over 18 or older are getting AstraZeneca. What's the plan for Fiji for children?
That's right. So, I mean, that's true. And these are some developments that are happening. And while Pfizer has officially, I think, announced that they can administer these vaccines for it's safe for children from 12 to 18 years of age. I must have, I will have to check if WHO's endorsed that as well, because same, what happens is that once they've done their studies, these goes to their technical advisory team. They relook at all the data again, and once they are satisfied and there's credible information, they make those decisions. So once we've got that, I know the other thing to note is while we use AstraZeneca in Fiji, and we know we have access to that at the moment, Pfizer in itself is another vaccine, and the supply is an issue as we speak. So the supply is an issue. But given the opportunity, we're definitely exploring those options for our children to get vaccinated. But in the and this is something again in the interim, while we don't have vaccines for our children, I think this is where adults play an important part. But definitely, we are exploring vaccination for our children as well for COVID-19, because we know we have had a good number of children being affected by COVID virus in Fiji, even kids, even toddlers as well. So we have seen that, and we are working towards it.
Will there be storage capacity issues in relation to Pfizer?
With the Pfizer vaccine, we know that is stored in -70 for long term and -20 for a bit more, I think a month or so. So we definitely can store for the month, but we do need to get this into arms early. So that's an important aspect. And the other thing is, we'll just, like we had initially planned, if Pfizer was brought into the country and that was made available to us, we would have to sort of plan out proper that we get enough doses in the country and push it out for utilization immediately and keep that rolling on an ongoing basis. Almost just like what we're doing with the AstraZeneca vaccines right now. I mean, what's been happening is there's been a batch of vaccines coming in as they're available and we're rolling it out. But obviously we don't have issues with storage for AstraZeneca because we can store millions at one point in time. But the expiry date of it is another issue. And similarly with the Pfizer, we have got to be mindful that we have to be mindful of the expiry date on it as well. And there are certain temperature measures that play an important part. And for example, in a normal fridge cooler, it will only last for a month, and after that you'll have to discard it. So those are important aspects. And knowing that, for vaccines, the heartbeat of vaccines is the cold chain. Basically, how we monitor and keep our cold chain in check. So that's basically the heartbeat of vaccines. We compromise with that. We compromise with the vaccines, and for us, that is an essential, important part of immunization that we keep talking about, and that is an important part we keep ensuring and monitoring vigorously. You rightfully said Pfizer has different temperature controls. So we have the capacity, we have the ability to do this. We will just have to, obviously, we don't have the huge storage capacity for hundreds and thousands of individuals in Fiji. But I know we could stagger the vaccine rollout into the country, coming into the country as we progress, though.
Dr. Rachel, thank you very much for your time, and also thank you to your hardworking team that continues to go out on a daily basis in harm's way, because we don't know where the virus is at the moment, with widespread cases at different even vaccination centers opening in Viti Levu. And good news for those who are watching this from Vanua Levu, as confirmed by Dr. Rachel, that some doses will be heading their way soon for vaccination as early as next week. Thank you very much, and we'll join you again next week.
Thank you.